Hello everyone, Sandrak here. So many of you asked me to do a weapon banner prediction, so this is my video on the weapon banner prediction for Yoimiya's banner. Now, of course, before we get started, just so you know, because the weapon banners have way more options than the character banner, we're looking at 2 5-stars for rate up and 5 4-stars for rate up versus the character banner of only 1 5-star and 3 4-stars. So I have, instead of actually giving what I think is the final answer, I basically give a lot of options for each of them, like around 3 for each of the positions. So I hope that at least one of them will be able to hit. But again, not everyone's pulling on the weapon banner, so I don't think there is a point trying to pinpoint down exactly what's going to happen with the weapon banner. So with that said, let's get started. So the first thing we want to look at is the 5-stars on the weapon banner, and these are currently all the 5-star characters, 5-star weapons in game. And this is the horizontal one, which is when they were rated up. For example, Aquila Favonia and the Almost Bow was rated up during Venti banner's first run. And there is also a difference. All these dashes mean that's when the weapon was not available in game. So for example, Summon Shaper did not become available until Albedo, until the Summon Shaper became a weapon in Albedo's corresponding weapon banner. This was when the Summon Shaper was first revealed. And another thing to note is any of these bolded checkmarks is considered the major weapon for that patch, because basically for every single patch, for every single weapon banner so far, except for Zhongli's rerun for some reason, one of the weapon will always be a weapon that is of the same weapon type as the rated up 5-star, basically except Zhongli's rerun here. They had a single hand sword and a callus here. But other than that, every other weapon had a weapon of the one the 5-star can use. And that is, in my opinion, considered the main weapon, because that's the main reason people are pulling for this banner. And of course, there is the other weapon that people do not want to get, basically. So a few examples here. In Mitni's case, during the initial run, you wanted the Almost Bow and you never wanted the Aquila Favonia. Same case later with Child, you wanted the Skyward Harp, you did not want the Memory of Dust, although that is kind of safe for Ningguang, I think. And for example, Albedo here, you want the Summon Shaper, but you do not want the Skyward Atlas. Basically, that's how you read this chart. And exclusive means if the weapon belongs to an exclusive set or an exclusive. Now, exclusive or not doesn't really mean anything. Basically, exclusive means it does not appear on the standard banner. So basically, every other weapon except 10 weapons here are considered exclusive, which you cannot get from the standard character banner, because for that banner you can get 10 weapons out. And except those 10, the rest are all basically exclusive. That's the only difference there. And these are the gaps between this banner and the last banner the weapon appear in, and these are the times the weapon banner have rated up. So as you can see, most of them are at 1 or 2, except for some reason Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds had 3. So that's how you read this chart. So let's first start by acknowledging the fact that Thunder Impulse will be 100% on Yoimiya's banner, which means we can cross out all 3 other bows, because there is no 2 weapon of the same type as rated up in the same banner. So we can safely cross out the 3 bows. That is the cleared up one, and now the 2 other we can easily cross out is the 2 weapons that were on Ayaka's banner right now, basically Mist Splitter Reforged and Skyward Spine. We can cross these 2 out as well, because there is no back-to-back weapons. The closest one we have, I believe, is Skyward Atlas had a back-to-back, but with 1 banner in between. Next, what we want to cross out is all the banners that has just been rated up very frequently. Now I calculate the average here. For these numbers, average is around 4.6, which means we can safely cross out anything above 6. Basically taking it up 2 notches, that's already a safe estimate. We can basically cross out anything that has been seen within 6 patches, because it is very unlikely for them to rate up. And now we end up with this one. I'm crossing out Wolf's Gravestone here because even though it has been 7 patches since its last rate up in Hu Tao's banner, however, we have seen this thing twice, whereas everyone else on this list we have only seen once. So that's just why I'm crossing out Wolf's Gravestone. And on top of that, Wolf's Gravestone is actually an okay weapon compared to some of the previous ones that we've crossed out here. For example, nobody really uses Aquila Favonia other than DPS Jean. Summon Shaper is a good one. This one's exception, but basically anything of the Skyward set, generally people do not want. Of course, this one is crossed out because it's recently new, but Skyward Atlas, Skyward Pride here, anything of the Skyward set other than Skyward Harp are generally considered as weapons you do not want. So this is why everything that crosses off this list is generally not weapons that you want, which is why Wolf's Gravestone is also off the list, because it's actually a good weapon. I don't think miHoYo is going to bring it back, having two good weapons back to back, which means when you're pulling for the weapon banner, you win either way. I don't think they're going to make you do that. And finally, out of these three, I decided to cross out the Skyward Sword for multiple reasons. The first one being that it only has 6, it's one of the last ones with 6, and given that Staff of Homa basically is unlikely to be rated up, then it makes sense to cross out Skyward Sword here as well, because this one is basically out as well. Like, there is no way that I'm releasing Staff of Homa alongside the Sundering Pulse, because again, Staff of Homa is one of the most wanted polearms in game, like period. So they definitely do not want that. And as for Skyward Sword, because Skyward Weapon has been on raid ups recently, and especially this time, the Mist Splitter Reforge, people are getting screwed over by Skyward Spine. So it makes no sense to put another Skyward weapon here, given that Yoimiya's popularity is not going to be very high. Her character's banner selling point is mostly going to be Sayu, and if they give her good 4 stars, of course. And her weapon banner selling point is going to be the Sundering Pulse, which they do not want to pair up with another bad 5-star. In that case, people will stop pulling on the weapon banner, which is why I believe Skyward Sword is off the chart here. With these 5, and finally, as I've explained before, Staff of Homa is the most wanted polearm, basically good on anyone. Jade Cutter is the most wanted single hand sword. I know it's not as good on Ayaka as Mist Splitter Reforge, however, Jade Cutter is way more universally used than Mist Splitter Reforge. Mist Splitter is only good on Keqing and Ayaka and DPS Bennett if you have him C6. Other than that, Jade Cutter is the universal weapon that anyone from Bennett to Xingqiu to Keqing can use. So this is why they're probably not also going to have this good weapon up here. Now, of course, the reason I'm saying is they won't have a bad weapon, but at the same time, they can't have 2 good weapons, because that makes pulling on the weapon banner a win-win, which means people will pull less likely, because after they get one of the good weapons, they're like, okay, that's enough for me, better not risk it, and stop pulling. So that's not what they want. Basically, what I'm saying here is they would cut out the Jade Cutter and Staff of Homelessness is what I like to call it. So finally, that leaves us with the 3 options: the Vortex Vanquisher, the Jade Wind Spear, and the Unforged. Now, personally, I believe out of these 3, the chances of them rating up is the Vortex Vanquisher is going to be the most likely, personally for me, then followed by the Jade Wind Spear, then finally followed by the Unforged. For the main reason why these 2 spears are before a Claymore is because Raiden Shogun's weapon is going to be a Claymore, very likely, because the single hand sword is already out. No matter if that's the case or not, the Mist Splitter Reforge and the Sundering Pulse belongs to the same weapon set. That weapon set will have a polearm that will get rated up. If Bao is a polearm user, that means that polearm will be rated up next patch. If that is the case, that means next patch's weapon banner cannot have a polearm in it, which means it's better for them to get a polearm out of the way this patch as early as possible, which means next patch they can do weapon like Reforged as the other one, or they can go back to their old screw people over with Skyward set with that formula again. But either way, which means next weapon, if Bao is a polearm user, next weapon banner will not have a polearm inside it, which is why these 2 polearms are higher likely to rate up. And between these 2, of course, Jade Wind Spear is actually universally good on most people as long as the person stands on the field to do enough damage, which means I believe that miHoYo will do the screw you over method again and give you the Vortex Vanquisher, because there is already the better version of Staff of Homa. On anyone, any DPS, the Staff of Homa will outdamage the Vortex Vanquisher, and the Vortex Vanquisher is the lore weapon for Zhongli and it hasn't been rated up for a while. So personally for me, I think it makes most sense to have the Vortex Vanquisher as the first choice, followed by the Jade Wind Spear, and finally the Unforged. That's my personal guess. If you have a different opinion, please leave your thoughts down below. Now let's look at the 4 stars. Now the reason I listed the 4 stars, as you can see here, it's a very obvious pattern here. I believe I missed one more line down here, which we'll see later. But basically what happens is, as you can see, every 5 banners, it kind of follows a pattern. Of course, the first 5 sets are not cleared enough, but as you can see, the last 5 set, everything follows an exact pattern. And as for there is a missing column down here because this one is supposed to be, I should probably just do this. Now this one is supposed to be the Lystic Spear here, as you can see. So basically what's happening with this one is that my guess is that it's going to either follow this pattern or there's going to be another case. So again, similar case here. There are exclusive weapons, but way less of them because a lot of them are already in the standard banner already. So with that said, my guess is that this is going to be my guess on what the banners are going to be. Let me explain. So if we assume the most likely scenario, which is the one less circled by red, which is if everything follows the exact pattern here. So this is the end of the pattern here. So next one should be the flute again. That is if that follows the pattern. And for this lane, then that should follow the pattern. Then we're looking at the Lystic Blade again. This lane, if it follows the pattern, because the bow actually has 6 of them, so it should go back to the first one instead of going back to sack bow, so we're looking at Favonius Warbow. For this one, if everything follows the pattern, then we're looking at Eye of Precision, but this one, it's actually not likely because Eye of Precision had 2 back-to-back here, which means had 4 runs instead of 3 runs like all the rest of them. So the most likely option looks like Witsis, followed by Son and Y and Son. These 2 are very likely is what my guess is. This is the only one that looks like it's going to break the pattern. Here is a very clear pattern formed. The reason why I did not go back to Lystic Spear here was because Lystic Blade was not rated up at the same time. They generally like to go these 2 at the same time. So that's my primary guess. If everything follows the exact pattern as before, then we're looking at the Flute, Lystic Blade, Favonius Warbow, Witsis, and Lystic Spear. Now, of course, Witsis is broken the rules. Now, the second idea is if they rate up the Alley set, which is the second option, which means instead of Flute here, which has 4 time rate up already, they would have one that has less time rate up, 2 time rate up here, the Alley Flash. The Rain Slasher only had twice rate up as well. They should do that for the Great Sword, which means Rain Slasher instead of Lystic Spear. As for the bow wise, it's going to be Favonius Warbow either way. There's really no way to remove that, so that's going to be that. And for the second option would be Y and Song because it has only been rated up twice. Again, it's a new weapon, relatively new weapon. And for this one, if they do not use the Lystic Spear, the only other option they have is Dragon's Bane. Otherwise, they are basically doing 2 Favonius lands back to back, which they will never do other than here. So it makes sense for them to go back to Dragon's Bane. Now, why is Sack Sword held it in white? It's because it's a special case. Now, anytime Xingqiu is on a banner, on a character banner, previously here, the sacrificial sword has always been on the corresponding weapon banner. Xingqiu was in Klee's banner, Xingqiu was in Gangyu's banner, and Xingqiu was in Eula's banner. So follow that rule here. If Xingqiu ends up on Yoimiya's banner, which according to my character banner prediction is a possibility, if that happens, then it means the sacrificial sword will go alongside Xingqiu on that banner. However, if that does not happen, then we're looking at Flute or the Alley Flash. That's why this one is in white. So overall, that's my complete prediction on all the banners and everything. So for the 5 stars, we're looking at Vortex Vanquisher to be the most likely, followed by Jade Wind Spear and Unforged. And for 4 stars, the most likely option is going to be Flute, Lystic Blade, Favonius Warbow, Witsis, and Lystic Spear, followed by Alley Flash, Rain Slasher, Favonius Warbow, Y and Song, and Dragon's Bane. And of course, if Xingqiu is rated up on the character banner, then we're very likely looking at the Sacrificial Sword replacing these 2 options as the option for the single hand sword. So that's all I have for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you like the content, please consider subscribing. Thank you and have a nice day.